Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another YouTube Live. I'm excited to chat with you today. We have a bit of a catchy topic. Of course, the title was chosen so that many people tune in, but I do think this is a really important topic, both the morning aspect and the stubborn belly fat. So today we're going to talk about what to do in the morning to lose stubborn belly fat. My name is Lisa. I am the owner and head coach at Nutrition Coaching and Life. I have been coaching individuals full time for almost 6 years, 4.5 years now, 5.5 years now, sorry. And I love what I do. So I just want to spread helpful information, tips and tricks when it comes to all things fat loss, muscle gain, and so on. If you enjoy this kind of chat, please do me a favor, subscribe to our channel. Also check out some of our other content, for example, on Instagram, on our podcast, the Nutrition and Life podcast. But yeah, I'm just thankful for you to share your time with me here. Like I said, I want to talk about what to do in the morning to lose stubborn belly fat. So many times people say to me, hey, I'm pretty happy with my figure all in all, but I just can't get rid of that lower belly in particular. What is all of that about? Is that really just the last 5 pounds, or what is it? So, I mean, that is part of it, that really it's the last thing to go. It makes sense evolutionarily because our body's main goal is to just keep us alive, right? It wants us to survive no matter what, and therefore it's mostly hanging on to that lower belly fat in order to protect our organs, and that especially our reproductive organs, and therefore that is often or usually the last thing to go. Nonetheless, there are certain scenarios where we see more of that lower belly fat being super stubborn. And the main symptoms are when people are super, super stressed all the time, high cortisol levels, or just in general when there is hormonal dysregulation. We might have life stressors like through training, through emotional stress, through work stress, and all that, and we don't take that into account when it comes to what that does to our lower belly fat. So today we're going to talk about what to do in the morning specifically to lose lower belly fat. Before I get into why exactly the morning, why exactly lower belly fat, can we spot reduce? I do need to preface that just by saying that, yes, overall calories are king and matter the most when it comes to weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance. So we always need to take that into the main consideration. Second part to that, macros are always going to be queen. So how you distribute the macronutrients within those calories, what percentage of protein you're eating. Are you eating enough protein in order to maintain lean body mass, especially if you are looking to lose weight? What kind of carb and fat distribution do you have? I mean, calories and protein really are the two most important things there when it comes to not just lower belly fat, but body fat in general. And then, of course, I also need to say that, yes, overall hormones, as I already alluded to with regards to the cortisol, do play a role also. So, if something worked for you when you were in your 20s, you had very little stress, your hormones were super balanced, your periods were super regular, doesn't necessarily mean that you can have the same amount of calories, even though you have the same activity level. And when you are in your mid 40s and you're going through perimenopause and you're super stressed and you have kids to take care of and all of that. So that does need to be taken into consideration too when we're talking about body fat or belly fat in particular. And of course, I do also need to say that food quality matters. We're not just talking about super flexible dieting, or more as it was called, if it fits your macros, where you just can fit in anything, Twinkies and Pop-Tarts and whatever into your diet with like 80-90% of the time without ever eating anything green. So food quality matters, especially also for your satiation and therefore your adherence, for your gut health, for your micronutrients, and just in general for how energized you are feeling. So before we talk about the tips and tricks and the ins and outs of what to do to lose stubborn belly fat, especially in the morning, we need to think of, where are my calories? Where are my macros? what is my hormone levels, hormonal health, and what kind of food quality am I consuming, where are my micronutrients at, and then we can look more at the specifics. But even within that, making sure that we are being consistent and adherent with it. So why specifically did I title this, What to Do or Do This in the Morning in Order to Lose Stubborn Belly Fat? Well, the morning I chose because for me it is the magical time, not necessarily when it comes to your body burning more during this time, or not necessarily because at this hour your body is extra receptive to XYZ supplement. No, the morning, because this is when most people tend to be able to be most consistent with something. We start the day off usually quite motivated, usually with a bunch of things that we want to get done. And over the course of the day, we kind of spend out of our motivation, our discipline, out of our adherence bucket, so to speak. And then towards the end of the day, in the afternoon, we are so much more inclined to veer off of what we set ourselves out to do, to veer off of what the good habits that we all had in mind. So that is why I have specifically said do this in the morning in order to lose stubborn belly fat. So again, nothing magical about any particular time. It's not like 5:05 in the morning is exactly when you need to do that, but simply having a morning routine as it pertains to targeting fat loss, targeting your nutrition, targeting your training, targeting your lower belly fat is very, very helpful. What I mean by that is, first, we need to put something useful in our mind. We need to nourish our mind just as much as our body because they're all connected. And if you don't nourish your mind with the right strategies, with the right, this is my why, with the right, this is where I want to get to, with the right, these are the people that I'm looking up to, then it's not going to take effect, or especially not going to stick in your external and your physical body either. So my recommendation is, first thing you wake up, don't look at your phone. Keep your phone ideally out of the bedroom throughout the night. Use a different alarm clock if you need to. They're, super cheap. That's not an excuse. My alarm is on my phone. Keep your phone out of your bedroom, charge it somewhere else, and use at least the first 15, 20, ideally 30 or more minutes of the day to actually nourish your mind with something different. That could be in the form of journaling. That could be in the form of reading something inspirational, motivational, educational, whatever you like. It can even just be going for a walk in stillness and gathering your thoughts, what you want to accomplish on that day, what you want to accomplish long term. And then that way, setting the right stage, setting the right frame. So that is so, so important and really, really underestimated. So I personally, I do have it's not a super extensive morning routine. And I have to say, I have given myself the flexibility to play with that over the course of the years as well. So for oftentimes when we start learning from people in the personal development world, they're like, you need to get up at 5 o'clock and you need to spend 30 minutes reading, 30 minutes journaling, an hour exercising. For most people, that is super unattainable. I have now created the luxury that I can create my own schedule. That was not always the way. Even when I was working in the police, and even when I was doing shift work, I would still have a morning routine, even though that might have sometimes been executed in the afternoon because of shift work. So I would get up, or now it looks like this, that I wake up, I roll over essentially right away, take my journal off, and I note down things that I have dreamt about just to remember them. I don't dream often, but still. I write down things I'm grateful for. I aim to write at least one page. It's like this A5 sort of little notebook. I might process things from the day prior. Or I write out a visualization of what I want my future life to look like, and I make sure that I write that in a state that is already done. So in the sense of, I am waking up by the beach here and there, blah, blah, blah. I have so and so much money in the bank, blah, blah. So that is quite important to already put yourself into that state of mind. So that might take 5 to 10 minutes. Then I aim to read, it depends on like how small print the book is that I'm reading at the time. So anywhere between like 3 and 10 pages per day is what I will aim to read. And then I get up and start my morning hygiene and the next few steps that I'm about to get into. And then I go to the gym and or walk to the gym. This is where I do my walk, and then I walk back. So I mean, it does take me some time. I wake up somewhere between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, naturally without an alarm because I go to bed early. And then I will come back from the gym, having showered, having completed my whole entire training and a stretch as well at the end, at about 8 o'clock. So, that's 3 hours. Most people don't have that amount, but I always say something is better than nothing, right? You don't need to do an hour of a workout and 15 minutes of mobility work afterwards. You can condense that to 45 minutes. You don't need to do half an hour of reading and journaling beforehand. You can condense that to 10 minutes also. So do what you can and do what works for you, not what works for me. So the next thing that I do once I have gotten dressed and get ready to the gym, and what I would recommend you to do in order to help your body to burn that stubborn belly fat or just any kind of fat, is to hydrate. Most of the time we wake up and many people go and grab the coffee, and I used to be one of those that like first thing, just a cup of coffee, and adding to that dehydration that occurs overnight naturally even more. And then we wonder why we're low in energy or why we're not feeling super driven to go and work out or so. So hydrating, even if it's a glass, ideally two, 16 ounces or more of water. You can add some Himalayan sea salt. You can add some lemon. You can add some fruit infusion thingy. You can have amino acids if you're also working out afterwards, like I do. I have actually now started having a protein shake prior to my workout also, or not just now. I've done this for a little while now, which actually I do think helps with my training recovery in particular and just energy throughout the training, even though I know protein is not a direct energy source throughout training, but nonetheless, I feel like it's helping me. And so that would be some recommendation to definitely hydrate right away, because it will encourage that continued flushing out of toxin. It will help support your gut, and it will just help your body function better throughout the day. So kind of like, if you have a machine running and you keep it well oiled or so, that's sort of how the hydration works, as opposed to letting it dry out and then putting way too much oil in there again, and then it dries out again, and so on. So the third thing to do, aside from nourishing your mind, hydrating your body in the morning in order to help you lose more belly fat or just stubborn belly fat in general, will be to get some sunlight in. And again, you might think like, oh, where's the scientific connection here between this and that? Well, I think many people here are possible or have possibly also listened to Huberman Lab podcasts, and just in general, the information is getting out there that exposing ourselves to sunlight in the morning is helping us reset our circadian rhythm, and is also helping us just in terms of dopamine regulation throughout the day. So in the morning, we want your cortisol, we want your stress hormone to be high, because we want you to have a drive to go and do stuff. And dopamine is about that. It is about the drive to do things, not just like motivation to do things, essentially. So having that sunlight in the morning will motivate you to be more active throughout the day. But what it will also help is reset that circadian rhythm, as I was saying, and therefore it will help you sleep better. So if you get out in the morning, even just 10, 15 minutes, and if it's overcast, maybe a little bit longer, being active ideally at the same time, or, you can listen to a podcast if you really don't want to embrace that stillness. But getting out there in the morning is just going to give you more energy throughout the day, and therefore help you move more, as well as sleeping better. And if we sleep better, we also, essentially have less hunger throughout the day, feel more satiated throughout the day. So all these things are connected. The fifth thing to have, and that doesn't necessarily have to be like right first thing in the morning, just whenever you choose to break your fast, would be to have some protein. Again, in our Western diet, it is very common that the first meal of the day is a piece of toast, it's just some cereal. And growing up, that was almost all that I had in the morning would be like cereal with milk, or maybe a bread roll with jam or something like that. So carbs and carbs and carbs. And I did not know that would make me more hungry throughout the rest of the day. Number one, because it will causes poor blood sugar regulation. And number two, it also just makes it so much harder to hit your protein target throughout the day. So having or breaking your fast with protein and maybe some healthy fat source is super helpful for your appetite regulation over the day. And therefore, it's also going to help you burn more lower belly fat. Not just that, though, if we fast for too long, or if we just rely on caffeine in the morning or so to take us through the day, that puts our body, or keeps our body, in a stress state. And even though I was just saying that cortisol in the morning is a great thing, because we want the cortisol to be high in the morning and then to drop off gradually over the course of the day, but we don't want it to stay elevated. And so if we are stressed from not having any food in our system for too long, especially not any good quality food, just caffeine or crappy food, you keep the body in the stress state. And what I was maybe not explaining properly in the beginning of the day, or in the beginning of this, was that if we're constantly in the stress state, your body is just thinking about survival, and it's not going to care too much about, hey, I'm going to get rid of this lower belly fat now. It, again, wants to protect your organs, but all it's thinking about is, I need to deal with this stressor, I need to deal with that emotional stressor, I need to deal with my training stressor. I'm just in adaptation mode, as opposed to being in thriving mode, as opposed to thinking, okay, well, I'm going to let go of this lower belly fat. She's taking good care of me. Otherwise, I'm sleeping well. I am getting good quality food. Maybe not. Maybe I am in a calorie deficit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be losing weight, but still, it is manageable, right? So that carries on throughout the rest of the day, moving away from what to do in the morning. But if for the rest of the day means also managing your stress, the amount of stress, and exposing yourself to the right kinds of stress. So for every really stressful thing that we have going on or purposely put in our life, we also want to have something that puts us back into a parasympathetic nervous system, so into more of a rest and digest and relax sort of state. So we don't want to be just eating on the go and shoving in food all day long and being go from 5 a.m. in the morning until we crash at night at 9 p.m. It should also be, okay, I'm going to take a few deep breaths, and I'm actually going to take 10 minutes for my lunch and just sit out here on the balcony. I do deserve that kind of break. I don't need to eat at my desk. Or if I choose to do something as stressful as cold exposure at some point, afterwards, I'm going to see that I get a good cup of tea and do some calming walk or whatever, in order to bring my body back down. So just kind of like balancing our stressors with some parasympathetic or downregulatory activities. Another thing to do just in general throughout the day, in order to help your body let go of that stubborn belly fat, not just in the morning, but generally, would be to move after your meals. We have already spoken about blood sugar regulation when it came to consuming protein when you break your fast. But moving after your meals also helps your body regulate that blood sugar that you have just consumed a lot better. And especially if perhaps one day you do eat a higher carb meal or so, it just keeps you more alert. And like more than anything, I have found that if I just sit right back down after a meal and maybe like collapse in front of my laptop or so, I'm also looking down. My whole posture is more like hunched forward, is more like squeezed together. So my digestive system is not in a great position to utilize gravity as well, or just that movement where it's like, okay, I can get things moving and have some very regular bowel movement. So moving after your meals, of course, I have already spoken about sleep and how important that is to get good quality sleep in order to allow our body to deal with the cortisol, with the stress over the day. with a calorie deficit as best as possible. And in order to have that good quality sleep, we don't just have to, or we don't just benefit from daylight exposure, from sunlight exposure in the morning. We also benefit from evening light exposure, and we also do well with having a proper sleep routine. So not just thinking about the morning, but also thinking about how am I going to spend that last hour, 90 minutes of the day before I head to bed. So essentially thinking about, maybe I need to set myself a bedtime alarm in order to actually stick with my routine bedtime. Maybe I want to set a cutoff time for my phone usage, for my screen usage in general. How close to bedtime am I eating or drinking in order to facilitate a better quality of sleep? Maybe not watching anything or listening to anything super agitating just before you go to bed, and instead, what can I do to help my body calm down? I think it's often so logical when we think of kids, like, of course they need to have a little bit of a bedtime routine, of course you want to read to them, of course it all helps them wind down. But then when we think of ourselves, we're often like go up until the last minute, and then we're surprised why we can't go to sleep, or why maybe we're able to go to sleep, but then we wake up a few times over the night and we're just not sleeping that deeply. So that would be the other thing to focus on. And of course, the right movement throughout the day in order to help us burn body fat, but also specifically the lower belly fat. So strength training is perhaps not like directly related with like, hey, let's burn that lower belly fat. We really want to focus on nutritional practices, lifestyle practices, daily movement in terms of regulating that calorie balance. But what strength training obviously helps with is just in general our metabolic health, is with our blood sugar regulation, also is with our hormone health, so in terms of testosterone, growth hormone, and so on, but also with sleep. You just sleep better if you have trained hard on the day. And of course it will help us with lean body mass, and therefore body fat percentage, which is really a lot more indicative of overall health than just weight, I guess. So to bring it back to the beginning, even though this is titled What to Do in the Morning in Order to Lose Stubborn Belly Fat, we need to remember that calories are king and are always the most important factor when it comes to energy balance, that macros are queen, especially protein. It's going to dictate what we actually lose in a weight loss process, if we lose body fat or lean body mass. We need to consider hormonal health, and we need to consider food quality, which is also influencing our gut health, our satiation, our micronutrients. And of course, with all of that, the overall consistency and adherence. But what is important, or why I said you should focus on these habits and planning and overall in the morning, is because we're going to increase adherence if we incorporate specific practices in the morning. So my recommendation is to aim to put something useful in your mind first thing in the morning, to set the stage right, to keep you motivated, to keep you on the right track as you start off the day. The second thing was to support your gut and your body overall in detoxification by hydrating first thing in the morning, not grabbing that coffee, but hydrating, maybe some Himalayan sea salt and lemon water, maybe some apple cider vinegar in there as well, some aminos, whatever. The third thing was getting daylight exposure in order to help with your cortisol regulation, in order to help with your sleep, which both are so linked with, hey, helping your body letting go of that lower belly fat. And then the fourth thing was to consume protein in your first meal. And outside of that, throughout the day, you are also supporting your body to let go of that stubborn lower belly fat by doing by regulating your stress as best as possible, managing your stress as best as possible, by moving after your meals in order to have that right blood sugar response, by strength training. Of course, you can also do some core exercises and lower belly exercises. However, you're not going to burn off or spot reduce your lower belly fat that way. It's simply going to build the muscles that are underneath. And if through your nutrition and lifestyle practices, you're able to get rid of the fat that's sitting on top, of course, you're going to have a wonderful looking six-pack or core. And the last thing was to really focus on your sleep, making that a priority, not just the quantity, but also the quality. Yeah, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that you didn't feel tricked by the title. But I do truly think that if we set ourselves up right in the morning with the right mindset, with the right maybe even meal planning for the day, packing your bag the night prior for your morning workout. You can do fasted cardio if you really want to, but I would actually say don't do it completely fasted. Maybe have a protein shake beforehand, and it's not going to be more beneficial than if you do that cardio in the afternoon. The evidence is pretty clear that it doesn't matter what time of the day you do it, as long as you do it consistently. But morning workouts, for me personally, do have the advantage of you get it out of the way, it's done, nothing else comes in the way. So in many, many instances, having routines or things that are really important to you in the morning is just going to be super helpful for adherence. So yes, hopefully you found that helpful. Next week, I'm going to talk about the truth about vegetables and carbs. They have gained a kind of confusing reputation over the last few years, I feel like. Carnivore, keto diets, and so on. So I want to just simply clear things up for you, and hopefully you find this helpful. If you already have any questions about it, do feel free to send me a message. And otherwise, I thank you for your time once again. Check out our other content on Instagram, on the podcast. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for listening.